Hi everyone, I'm Rafa and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the 8 skills that you need to learn when starting a tech startup. Skill number 1, realizing and accepting that you don't know much at all. When starting your own company, you might be thinking, oh, I've got this really special piece of knowledge that only I've got, or I've got this particular piece of IP I must not tell anyone about. Well, chances are, thousands of people have thought of exactly the same idea, if not already even done it. So what's important in the beginning is not to try and be protective about what you're doing or the idea that you're pursuing, but instead to open up and to share it with as many people as you can so that you can get feedback. In other words, it's important to prioritize the learning over protecting. Once I had a friend that I met up with over dinner, and after 40 minutes of conversation, he finally told me about his top secret startup idea. Any guesses what that startup might have been? Bamboo toothbrushes. He wanted to make bamboo toothbrushes and that was it. There's really no secret about it, and he could have told me way at the beginning, at the start, and we could have been brainstorming about ways to make it work and worked on the strategy together over a nice meal instead of him trying to hide it and conceal it from me all this time. The truth is, when starting a company, the chances are it's very, very highly unlikely for the people around you to want to copy what you're doing because they either lack the motivation, the passion, the knowledge, or the vision to even execute what is in your mind. Skill number 2, storytelling. In the beginning, you might be a bit hesitant to share with people, friends, loved ones, other colleagues about what you're doing. And part of that could also just be because you haven't yourself worked out what it is you're doing, right? Now, the trick to storytelling is to focus on the big picture. Don't focus on the things that you have not thought through or are unsure about. Focus instead on what the ultimate end goal you're trying to aim for is, and tell people about that exciting journey that you're going on as opposed to what you're doing and trying today. And don't be shy about it. Tell everyone that you know about it, because you do need that feedback, and it's great practice for when you need to make a sales pitch or when you need to make a pitch to investors in the future. If you're looking for some inspiration on how to tell a good story, I really recommend the book Building a Story Brand. Skill number 3, user research. The number of times I've heard people say, hey, Rafa, I've got this great startup idea, and it ended up being a huge flop. And that's because they never really truly wanted to understand what the user is thinking, what the potential customers need. Instead, they went about it as, oh, I thought of this amazing product. Okay, let me go and build it, and this must be the one. That 9 times out of 10 will lead to failure. What is important in any startup, as with any business, is to be solving problems that are actually useful and that people actually pay for at the end of the day. So there's a certain methodology with research that comes with it, and maybe in a future video I can talk about that, but it's really important to grasp the skills of how to talk to potential customers, seek them out, and talk to them and ask them interesting questions, unbiased questions that allow you to gain insight into their habits, into their needs, and their day-to-day use cases. These people, by the way, are often not your own friends. So although it might be a good starting point to maybe talk to some friends about your startup or ideas, ultimately what's really important is to find the people who are most relevant to what you're building and to be talking to them instead. If you're just starting out with user research, then I'd really recommend reading the book The Mom Test. And also to pay attention to the tools Typeform, which is great for creating surveys, long form, short form. And one quick tip of advice is to be super structured with your data collection. Like talking to a friend at a cafe and then go like, oh yeah, I think I got some ideas. That does not count as user research. Write down everything and be deliberate with the types of questions that you ask them. Skill number 4, product design. If you're a baker, you bake. If you're an artist, you paint. If you're a tech founder, you create product. I know it's tempting nowadays, especially when you have platforms like Upskill and Fiverr, just to outsource product design and to find some so-called specialist who can do things for you for $8 an hour. But the truth is, if you're going to create a tech startup, you need to be good at creating product, the product that your customers are going to be paying for. So take some time, upskill on Canva, upskill on Figma. These platforms, these tools are going to be infinitely useful on your founder journey when you create a product. Skill number 5, speaking to random people. Now, chances are, if you came from a professional services background like myself, then you're not really used to speaking to random people all the time, because most of the time you're interacting with either your clients or your colleagues in the office, right? However, in the world of startup, you never know what's going to come up, and you never know what kind of people and therefore skills you might need. So what is really, really useful is actually just to develop a second nature to talk to random people and to build connections wherever you go and everywhere you go. And basically, really all there is 3 steps. Connecting with the right people, or connecting with anybody really. Finding value from these people. So that's not small talk that you might have with these people, but instead you kind of, in a nice way, get to the meat of the bone and ask them what they do and what they like and what their motivations are, and quickly also discover what skills they might possess that could be useful for you. And then the 3rd step is staying in touch with people. Infect them with the warmth, infect them with the vision that you've got for your startup, and maybe, who knows, you can bring them along on your journey too. Once there was some bit of work that I needed to do at the airport for my startup, and I started chatting to this guy, and we ended up having a lovely 1-hour conversation. I took his email down, and you know what? 3 months later, he ended up being my employee. So there you have it. Talking to random people is a super useful skill. Skill number 6, sales. You'll need to do sales basically wherever you are. When you're looking for B2B partnerships, when you're looking for clients, when you're fundraising. Actually, even when you're hiring or looking for a co-founder, you're selling. So if you're not really used to talking to people about the USP of your product, then get good at this. This can be a video and a whole topic of its own, so I won't say too much here other than that this is a skill that needs to be refined and honed, and therefore you have to devote time to building up your sales skills. If you're new to sales and don't know where to start, then I'd recommend reading these 3 books: Influence, Getting to Yes, and Predictable Revenue. Skill number 7, fundraising. Now, contrary to what a lot of people think, it's actually not how good your product is or how much traction you've already gained that matters most when you raise your first round. The 2 things that really matter is actually market size and the team. Whether you're looking for big investors or small investors, actually that's really informed by how big your market size is. And there are ways to manipulate this conversation too. I remember once going into one of my very first VC pitches, and I was pitching them a market size of about £200 million, and they said, well, this is a little bit too small for us to be interested, and kind of showed me the door in a little bit of an awkward way. And so I went home and revisited how I could actually structure the whole pitch, and whether or not we could maybe add another additional few geographies, maybe throw in a new service in there to inflate the market size. And then subsequently I was able to pitch pretty much the exact same business idea, but now I had a market opportunity of over £7 billion. And that obviously then resulted in me landing the investment. So getting used to thinking about market size, your addressable market, the serviceable market, and the operable market is super important. And finally, for skill number 8, we've got team management. Now, with team management, the way that I like to think about it is actually you've got to manage yourself first and get into good shape yourself before you can manage others. So what I think is always really important is actually to get your own values straight and get the values of your company, which are commonly the values that you possess yourself as an individual, aligned before then you look into how to hire out a team and the types of people that you're looking for. But if we're to look at the team side of things for a second, there's a few things that you need to think about and are important to learn about. One is how to structure a team. One of the early questions you might be asking yourself is, do I hire or do I outsource? So which bits are the most important and core to the product that I'm building and the company that I'm building? Therefore, those bits will be in-house. And then which bits do I maybe not need someone in-house or someone permanently doing it all the time, in which case I can outsource. So with tech startups, what a common arrangement could look like is to have an in-house developer, which would be your CTO, and then to, in the beginning anyway, outsource your marketing. Because you don't, let's face it frankly, you don't need someone who's doing your socials every single day of your life. And there you have it. These are the 8 skills that you need to learn before starting your tech startup. Which skills did you find the most useful? Or maybe I missed something out? Drop them in the comments below and I'll see you next time.